We bid you welcome. In this community of radical inclusion, we make space for what you believe and what you love. Your whole self is welcome here. In this community of open-hearted inclusion for all people, we do not expect you to think in a certain way or restrict yourself to one set of beliefs. We only ask that you try to live a kindly, helpful life with the dignity proper to a human being. Welcome all who believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. Welcome all who might find in our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. We're so grateful you're here. My name's Beverly Church, and I'm the service leader today, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you for spending your Sunday morning with us, whether enjoying the service in person or watching online. I'd like to extend a special welcome to any visitors today. After the service, we invite you to stay for coffee and conversation downstairs in our reception hall. Please take a moment now to silence your phones, but we encourage you to share your presence with us here on social media. We're very fortunate today to have Dr. Chris Lambert from Life Remodeled with us as our guest speaker. I'll tell you a little bit more about him later in the service. This Sunday is Caring Sunday, and we're collecting for our speakers organization, Life Remodeled. An envelope should be in your order of service. You can also use the QR code on the envelope to donate online. Next Sunday, June 2nd, is our youth-led service, and you won't want to miss that. After which is a UU and U class being held from 11:45 to 1:15. Anyone interested in attending can learn more about UUism. Livonia Pride is on Sunday, June 15th. Please show your support by attending. If you'd like to volunteer some of your time at our booth, please contact someone from the Social Justice Committee. If there are additional announcements at this time, you're welcome to come up. Please speak directly into the microphone, introducing yourself and the committee you represent.
Morning, Marie Laurie, Social Justice. Two more things. One is there's also Ferndale Pride next Saturday. If anybody would like to help table with that, we'll be with Northwest and First UU there. And the other is that next Sunday night, next Sunday is very full, we will be writing letters again for the Good Trouble congregation. So please join us in Adams Hall at 7 o'clock next Sunday night. Thanks.
Joe McGlincy, Social Justice again. We keep everyone busy. I just want to remind you, don't forget to twist your tops because we filled one big jar and part of another one, and it will go down to the Ronald McDonald House, and they use it to fundraise, and it's a national program for the Ronald McDonald Houses. So it's good for the environment. It doesn't cost anything. Little elbow grease and a pair of pliers, and you can, thank you.
Thank you for bringing your events to our attention. And you can check the UUCF website or emails for other announcements about upcoming events. Please rise as you're willing and able for our first hymn from the Gray Hymnal, number 121, We'll Build a Land. Our chalice lighting words today are different yet united by Pat Uribe Lichty. We come from many places along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities, and yet we come together as one people with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, we may find others who are much like us and others who are much different. May our lit chalice remind us that we are a people taught by different stories and many voices, but always one people working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Please join me in our shared affirmation of mission, which is on page 2 of your order of service. We seek answers everywhere, include everyone, live with compassion. Your joy is multiplied in its sharing. Your sorrow is lightened by its sharing. The stories that are shared weave together to strengthen our community as we care for one another. May we be reminded here of our highest aspirations and inspired to bring our gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other. At this time, you're welcome to come and pick up a stone here or stones from the table, infuse them with your joy or sorrow, and place them in the singing bowl where the energy will ripple out to be held by all of us. If you'd like to share something important on your heart, you may also come up and speak directly into the microphone. If you have submitted a joy or sorrow via text, it'll be read aloud by me. All are welcome to participate in any of these ways at this time. We're attempting to light 3 candles for the intentions that rest in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. 1 for the joys, 1 for the sorrows, and 1 for the strength of the gathered community that can support you and bring you peace. Thank you, Barb. Our meditation today comes to us from the Reverend Michelle LaGrave. The many ways we listen. Please take a moment to get comfortable in your seat and feel yourself in your body. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. Breathe in gently now and breathe out. Listen to your breath. Listen for another's breath. Whether you are here in the meeting house, at home with a family member or a cat, or at the local coffee shop, listen. Now, place your hand on your chest, again, slowly now. Breathe in and breathe out. Some of us hear with our ears the sounds we make, the sounds others make. Some of us hear with our eyes, watch lips and hands and arms and body movements. Some of us hear with our bodies, feel vibrations in the air and on our skin. Slowly now, breathe in, breathe out. Listen in the many ways you know how. As we breathe together, some of us on our own, some of us with help, so too do we live together. Gently now, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Together and apart, we are many, and we are one. Breathe in, breathe out. Listen in the many ways you know how, as together we enter into the silence. Please rise as you're willing and able for our hymn from the gray hymnal, number 124, Be That Guide.
To
Our reading today is Love and Liberation by Adrienne Maree Brown. One thing I have observed, when we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. The love in romance that makes us want to be better people, the love of children that makes us change our whole lives to meet their needs, the love of family that makes us drop everything to take care of them, the love of community that makes us work tirelessly with broken hearts. Perhaps humans' core function is love. Love leads us to observe in a much deeper way than any other emotion. I think of how delightful it is to see something new in my lovers' faces, something they may only know from inside as a feeling. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact on what was considered organizing. If the goal was to increase the love, rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. We would suddenly be seeing everything we do, everyone we meet, not through the tactical eyes of war, but through the eyes of love. We would see that there's no such thing as a blank canvas, an empty land, or a new idea, but everywhere there is a complex, ancient, fertile ground full of potential. We would organize with the perspective that there is wisdom and experience, an amazing story in the communities we love, and instead of starting up new ideas or organizations all the time, we would want to listen, support, collaborate, merge, and grow through fusion, not competition. We would understand that the strength of our movement is in the strength of our relationships, which could only be measured by their depth. Scaling up would mean going deeper, being more vulnerable, and more empathetic. I'm pleased to introduce our speaker today. Dr. Chris Lambert is the founder and CEO of Life Remodeled, award-winning author of Next Level Nonprofit, and founder of the Next Level Nonprofit Organizational Operating System. It's not the career trajectory Chris envisioned when he studied marketing at Indiana University, planned for law school, or dreamed of a lucrative career as a real estate developer. But a new call took shape after a spiritual awakening during his junior year of college, and Chris went on to earn his Master's of Divinity and doctorate in preaching from Fuller and Gordon Conwell seminaries, respectively. Moving to Liberia, Chris and his wife helped a village mobilize support to drill a well, acquire farm animals, and construct their very first school building. Upon returning to the U.S., Chris founded a church called Ecclesia. In 2010, he launched Life Remodeled, which repurposes vacant school buildings into one-stop hubs of opportunity and helps create neighborhood revitalization that lasts. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. All right, first I'm going to just put this up here, and I don't know if the tech team takes over from this point and it just magically works. Does it pop up on the screen when I just... Look at that. Now, I need to find where I put my clicker. There it is. Boom. All right, so it is such an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you this morning. I want to just comment on that reading for a minute. That was beautiful. And I deeply resonated with that because I'm a lot of things, right, in my identity. One of the ways I identify is an entrepreneur. And I'm constantly innovating and thinking of new things, right? But I'm at a place in my life, I just recently turned 44, where truly listening to others, truly a saying that resonates with me is be where your feet are, is something I'm really trying to live into and experience the depth and quality of relationship and not just living in the future consistently, right? So that's a little bit of my journey that I want to start with. I'm gonna share about Life Remodeled, and then I'm going to share a little bit of my own personal journey as well, my own kind of life remodeled experience as a human. And you're going to hear a lot of faith elements. In particular, the person of Jesus is central to my life. But I want to be very clear that Life Remodeled, very intentionally, is not a religious organization. There's no religious or faith doctrine. This is an organization for absolutely everybody, and that is really the beauty that's created this tapestry in the city of Detroit from people of all walks of life that are collaborating together for better communities, right? And so whenever I talk about Life Remodeled, I always start with why we exist. And the reason we get up out of bed to do the work that we do is we are absolutely convinced, Detroiters, so we work in the city of Detroit, right? We're absolutely convinced Detroiters have all the talent they need, but many don't have access to all the opportunities they deserve. And when we talk about that gap in opportunities, there's 3 statistics that very quickly define that gap. And you may be familiar with all 3 of these, right? Or for some of us, maybe these are the first time we're hearing this. Right now in the city of Detroit, 88% of 3rd grade students are reading below grade level. And I want to just pause on that for a minute before I move on, because in many states around our country, the number 1 predictor that is utilized when the penal system and governments are working together to determine how many jail cells to build for the future is 3rd grade reading levels. Because there's literally a pipeline to some of these outcomes, because up until 3rd grade, you're learning how to read. After 3rd grade, you're reading to learn. And so when children don't arrive at this grade level of 3rd grade, it puts them at a significant disadvantage for the future of their not only educational career, but the rest of their lives, right? And in the city of Detroit right now, 30% of Detroiters cannot access the health care they need. I'm not saying that they can't get to Mayo Clinic or they can't get to the best doctor around. I'm saying they cannot even access some of the basics of the mental health services, behavioral health services, dental services, primary care, and so on and so forth. This is significant. Detroit residents' median household income is half that of suburban peers. And so what we do is we work together with communities, with organizations, with individuals from all over to really do 3 things. Together we want to improve academic outcomes, we want to increase access to health and wellness services, and we want to help more Detroiters achieve economic self-sufficiency through sustainable, livable wage employment. And the way we do that is we repurpose large vacant school buildings. So when I tell that to people without having a slideshow or without being able to show them the building, they think about modern looking school buildings, which in my opinion, many of them kind of look like prisons. They don't have a lot of natural light and they're not built to last very long. But when I tell people about this school and that I don't have a picture of it, I say, you got to think Harry Potter school. All right, you got to think Hogwarts, right? Does that not remind you a little bit of Hogwarts? You know, neo-Gothic architecture, slate roof, plaster crown moldings, you have marble walls and wooden panels and so on and so forth. So, you know, I like buildings, but I'm much more passionate about the lives of children and families who access significant opportunities in this place and space. So here's what we've done with this. The school district closed this school building in 2017. It was called Durfee Elementary Middle School. By the way, did anyone here go to Durfee or Central High School? Okay. Do we know where this is? Is anybody familiar? All right. So Lodge and Davison, just south of Davison, west of the Lodge, right? And this was a kindergarten through 8th grade school at the time. Next door is Central High School. Now, Central High School is the first high school in Detroit. Central High School used to have 4,000 students. If you wanted to take a guess at how many high school students are in Central High School right now, what is your number? We'll play a little game here. We're not going to do prices right, so if you go over, you know, you're not automatically losing here. But what's your guess? 400, 600, 1,000, lower. It's not, who said 250? It's 250, right? Now, it may be 251, 249, but it's 250, right? So, you know,
that's kind of fun because you got the game, but that's really sad when we think about the implications of that for a community. And so what happened is in 2017, the school district moved all of the kindergarten through 8th grade students, which were actually 608 students, into the high school. And they don't run into each other, they're separated by different floors, so it's a safe environment. But instead of this building becoming vacant, like many, many, many vacant schools in the city of Detroit, we repurposed this building. We renovated it, and you'll see some of the spaces in a minute. But we then filled this building with the best and brightest nonprofits who are doing the three things I just mentioned. The best and brightest nonprofits who are doing after-school youth programs that are educational, health and wellness access, and workforce development initiatives. We not only put them in this building, we help them collaborate together with one another, and most importantly with the community, to achieve outcomes and impact that none of us could have possibly obtained alone. And you'll hear some of those stories and see some of that data in a minute. And so this building is 100% occupied by 34 organizations. We have a waiting list. That's unheard of, right, in real estate. But one of the reasons this is true is because we lease space to these organizations at cost. There is no markup, there's no profit. What it costs us to operate this building, that's what they pay to be here. So that allows us to be very selective. We actually say no to every nonprofit that just wants a really cool space to do administrative work. We say go to great spaces like WeWork, if you're familiar with that, or TechTown, or Bamboo. But this place is not about that. This place is about direct services that truly help community members achieve the future that they want, that they're looking for, right? So we have some cool spaces like a totally free arcade, because we found that there's a huge issue. Children are not playing enough video games these days. And so people always ask me, like, why do you have an arcade in there? Because it's an incentivizer for students. Any student that gets involved in an after-school program, they can come spend a little time, an appropriate amount of time, right, in the arcade. We also have an old pool that we turned into an event space. Now, we wanted to keep this as a swimming pool. We tried to give it away for free to the YMCA, Goldfish Swims, anybody that wanted it that could keep it as a pool. Nobody wanted it because it costs $250,000 a year to operate a pool this size. So we did the next best thing, and we repurposed it, and we actually painted it. We filled it in with concrete, and we painted it to look like the ocean. And this is a youth event space where all kinds of youth pop-up programs, whether it's Mosaic Youth Theater or Eisenhower Dance or Suzuki Violin or Mad Science, a number of great programs come in here. We have a wonderful gym that gets utilized, regularly. So I want to tell you 3 stories of life transformation. And by the way, the images and the names of these individuals have all been changed to protect their identities. But imagine Tony on your left, right? So when Tony first walked into that building that you just saw, his head was hanging down low, his shoulders were slumped over, he was unemployed at the time, he's a single father, and he had no idea how he was going to provide for his children's future. And he heard that you could get a job at this place. It's called the Durfee Innovation Society, which, by the way, the youth of the community named this building. So Tony walks in. He's not real confident it's going to go the way that he's heard. 6 weeks later when he comes out, now he didn't stay there overnight, all 6 weeks, right? But 6 weeks later, he walks out of this building with his head held high, his shoulders exuding confidence, because he had just crushed a rigorous workforce development exam and landed a new job that would significantly change the economic trajectory of his family's future. Or in your upper right, Miss Debbie has 2 grandchildren who attend Durfee Elementary Middle School, which is now next door in Central High School. And she finds solace in the Durfee Innovation Society because we have 8 commercial washers and dryers that are completely free for all children and their families who attend Durfee and Central schools next door. And so Debbie washes her grandkids' clothes here because here's what we learned from kids in Detroit schools. The #1 reason chronic absenteeism is so high in Detroit schools, And I'm going to tell you the statistics in a minute. Well, I'll just tell you, at this school, 76% of kids are chronically absent every month. The number one reason, according to youth, is lack of access to laundry facilities. We never would have known that. We never would have come up with that idea. But that's what we learn when we ask youth and families, what are the barriers in your way of you achieving the future that you aspire to, right? And so by having this resource, we've been able to decrease absenteeism and increase attendance at school. Or imagine Miss Tiffany in your lower right. Miss Tiffany, she has 2 twin sons who are amazing, and they both have autism, as was brought up earlier. Now, not the level of autism that you described earlier, right? But significant, very significant. And Miss Tiffany and her 2 sons, they live only 2 minutes away from this building. But before we created the Durfee Innovation Society in 2017, Miss Tiffany used to have to drive many, many miles to get her sons access to the care that they needed and deserved, which means that she wasn't able to get them access as frequently as she liked. Now, she drives only 2 minutes to some of the best pediatric therapy in the entire region, and her boys are thriving at the Durfee Innovation Society. I want to tell you some data now. I want to share with you some data information that's showing the impact that this place is having. So we've probably all heard of Gallup research here in this room. It's a nationwide research effort institute. They did a study in Detroit last year that I didn't even know was taking place until it was done. It was a major study, and they're going to be doing it in large cities around the country, and they're measuring what they would call Black thriving or African American thriving, and particularly they started in Detroit because Detroit is the largest predominantly Black city in America. And they surveyed thousands of Detroiters all across all 139 square miles of Detroit. And what their research concluded, that the Durfee neighborhood, which is the neighborhood around our building, has the second highest perception of thriving in the entire city. Indian Village scored number 1. Now, some of us may know Indian Village. Indian Village is an incredible, historic neighborhood. And just 3 weeks ago, the Detroit Regional Chamber came out and said it was shocking that the Durfee neighborhood scored number 2, because there have been no major infrastructure developments other than the Durfee Innovation Society. And they said this is the most significant factor, is the repurposing of this school and the opportunities that are there. Let me give you a little more perspective on these statistics. When we first moved into this neighborhood in 2017, 80% of people who lived within 4.5 square miles lived at or below the poverty line. And so if this study would have been taken 6 years ago, it would have been a very different story. Or we also learned from the police chief just about 3 weeks ago, Chief White, that our neighborhood now around this building now has the lowest crime rates, number 1, lowest crime rates in the entire city. When we first opened our doors, it was in the top 10 highest crime in Detroit. And so access to opportunity changes everything. Our whole model is based on doing work with communities. We don't do development to a community, and we don't even do it for a community. The work that we do is with communities, finding out what are their hopes, their visions, their dreams for the future, and how can we come alongside and assist, all right? So since 2014, we've renovated 4 schools in Detroit. We used to renovate existing high schools. We no longer do that. We renovated Cody High School, Osborne High School, Denby High School. Some of you are familiar with these schools. Did anybody go to any of these schools? Cody? Cody, yeah. Where'd you go, sir? Cody. Cody. C-O-D-Y. And? Osborne. All right. Now I'm going to tell you about another school in a minute. I'm curious if anybody went there. So we've invested $51 million. We've beautified 2,369 blocks. We've mobilized almost 82,000 volunteers because every year we do a 6-day project. And I know some of you in this room have volunteered on that project. By show of hands, how many of you have ever volunteered with us on our 6-day project? You haven't? I thought you have. Yeah. You with the lawnmowers and all that, or did you only come to the Christmas thing? You did the Christmas thing. Hey, you're one of the volunteers on that screen. All right. So the 6-day project, it's not the most creative name in the world. It takes place over 6 consecutive days. And what we're doing is we're mobilizing 5,000 volunteers over that time period to beautify about 2 square miles around our opportunity hubs that you saw, our first one. I'm about to show you our newest opportunity hub in a minute. And we provide all the tools, the lawnmowers, the weed whackers, and so you're cutting down overgrown brush and weeds on vacant properties. You're getting rid of illegal dumping and so on and so forth. And it translates to much safer and more beautiful communities. And so we've also boarded up over 2,000 houses. This is the new vacant school building that we just purchased. Did anyone attend Dominican High School, which was a Catholic girls' high school on the east side of Detroit at 94 and Whittier? Does anybody know anyone who attended Dominican? Yes, all right, in the back. Any relation to you or just a friend or what? Friend. Yeah, excellent. And yourself, ma'am? Your cousin. Wonderful. All right, so what you're going to see now is this is the existing building. Of course, this was taking place during that terrible time of year where all that white stuff falls down. But we're going to put in all kinds of new parking spaces. That's a retention pond that you see on your left. Right now, you're looking at the existing tennis courts. That's going to become brand new tennis courts and pickleball courts. I bet we have some pickleball players in here. Fastest growing sport in America. And then the most significant thing that we're doing as we drive down this lane is that building that you see on the left, that doesn't exist right now. That is going to be a brand new 26,000 square foot building that will be focused on technology education and technology workforce development. Because when we ask the community, what do you want? What increased opportunities do you want in your community? They said, we want all the things you're doing at the Durfee Innovation Society. We want after-school youth programs, health and wellness access, and workforce development initiatives. But they said for the workforce, we want you to focus on tech because no industry has the ability to pull a lever for economic growth more quickly in a family or in a generation than the field of technology, right? And you can do so without a 4-year degree. And so we're doing a lot of technology investment here. And the community also said we want this road, Whittier, to become the premier performing arts space or performing arts district on the east side of Detroit. So this building actually has an auditorium with 700 seats and an orchestra pit, and we're going to make this the premier performing arts space in Detroit. And a federally qualified health center will be moving into this building, which provides dental services, primary care, behavioral health services. A lot of youth programs are moving into this building. It's going to be fantastic. I want to tell you a brief tale. We call it a tale of 2 zip codes. All right, so this building is now called Anchor Detroit because the community named it. That was their decision. I love the name they came up with. It's located, this is 94, all right, this is Whittier. This zip code is 48224. This zip code, 48236, is 3 of the 5 gross points. So what we did was we took census data and other data from households with children in these 2 zip codes. And we knew it was going to be, significant disparity, but it was much more significant than we imagined. So right now, the median household income, I said on average, is half that of suburban communities. In this case, it's less than a third, all right? This number, 0% of students scoring at or above college readiness proficiency on the SAT. That is very alarming. 5.7% of students are reading at grade level in 3rd grade. 12% educational attainment for a bachelor's degree or higher. So, we're really excited about these numbers on the right. We don't want to do anything to bring those down, right? We're gonna say congratulations. But we want to work together, and we're actually working with a lot of gross pointers to increase these numbers on the left. And that's what we've shown to be very, very good at. And so the future looks like this. 2,300 youth every year are going to experience educational programming in this building. 2,100 adults are going to gain access to new employment opportunities every year. 11,000 children and adults are going to access life-changing health and wellness access that will increase the quality and the length of their lives. And 2,500 people will receive just access to various community resources. We have been recognized as one of the best managed nonprofits in the region by Crain's Detroit for the last 2 years in a row. And we have the highest ratings you can possibly have on Charity Navigator and Candid. And then briefly, how much time do I have left, Bob? I don't know. Okay, a few minutes. Briefly, I'll just outline a little bit of my own personal journey. So I was born and raised in a very small town in northern Indiana. And when I say small town, I mean we didn't have a four-way stoplight until I was in middle school. So the words urban neighborhood revitalization were three words I never heard in succession my entire childhood. When it came to faith or religion, my parents would take my sister and I to church service maybe once a month because they felt like it was the right thing to do. But I don't really ever remember them talking about God in our house or in our home. And for whatever reason, and I don't know why this was, I was a very, very passionate kid spiritually about the person of Jesus in particular. So much so that in 8th grade, other kids in school called me, my last name is Lambert the Jesus freak, because I was the kid who was trying to convert everybody to Christianity, and I was not very successful at it. Now, the high school I went to was actually almost as big as the town I grew up in, because multiple cities went to this same high school. And when I turned 16, I hit a growth spurt. You know, it didn't last as long as I was hoping for, but I became kind of a big fish in a small pond when it came to athletics and got some school records and whatnot. And I started looking at my friends who were not following God, and I came to the conclusion, wow, they were having a lot more fun in life than me and my dorky little youth group. So I said, goodbye, Jesus. And really, to be completely accurate, I gave him the middle finger. And I said, I want nothing to do with you. And I wanted nothing to do with God. And for the next 6 years of my life, I did whatever I wanted to do, whatever I thought was going to make me happy. And I graduated from high school in 1999. I went to Indiana University and I studied business. And my plan was to become a real estate developer because at the time, I just thought that was a fantastic way to make the kind of money that I thought that I wanted to make, to live the lifestyle that I thought that I wanted. So when I was at Indiana University, I joined what was then the largest fraternity on campus. 2 years after I left, they got kicked off for cocaine and guns. And let's just say it was a very interesting place, right? And I was having a blast, or so I thought. But there would be nights when I would lie in bed and I would think to myself, wow, this isn't really doing for me what I thought that it would. I don't really feel happy, right? But my solution to my perceived problem was just to double down on all those activities that I was doing, right? And so my junior year of college, I decided to move to Australia for 6 months to study overseas. And while I was in Australia, I ended up experiencing what I would call a radical encounter with God that changed the entire trajectory of my life. So a couple things happened. When I was in Australia, I also did some travel to various countries in Southeast Asia, the Pacific Rim, Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia. And I began to realize, wow, the world is a very big place. And it certainly does not revolve around my 22-year-old ego, right? Which was a very important notice. And then I met a couple guys in Australia who became my closest friends. And they happen to be what I would call Jesus followers. So I don't call myself a Christian for a lot of reasons. But they were pretty fun guys. They could go out to a bar, have a few drinks. And meanwhile, I'd stay out doing all the things that they weren't doing. And they kept trying to get me to come to their church service. And I was like, bro, that ain't happening. I mean, I didn't come to Australia to meet with God, you know? And they wouldn't stop. And they were relentless. And they were fun. We would surf, we would hang out. And eventually I'm like, fine. So we go, and it was this, I remember it was a little Anglican church service, and the pastor wore skateboarding shoes and skateboarding shorts, and I was judging him. I was like, he can't do that. Pastors can't dress like that, you know? It was okay. I went back a second time, I went back a third time. The third time I went, this guy gets up on the stage. He tells this story that in many ways outlined major themes of my life. And as he was wrapping it up, I experienced actually hearing God speak to me for the first time in my life. And it was not an audible voice, but it was more clear than anything I've ever heard another human being say to me. And I remember exactly what I did when I experienced that. I got down on my knees, I looked up, and I said, God, from this moment forward, I'm going to stop doing whatever you want me to stop doing, and I'm going to start doing whatever you want me to start doing by faith in you, Jesus, amen. So I stopped using illegal drugs right off the bat and getting, drunk. Now, I still like some bourbon and cigars and whatnot. But those were the things that needed to stop happening in my life. What started happening in my life was much more inspiring. So prior to this experience, I loved my family, my friends in the fraternity, the girl that I thought I was going to marry at the time. But I didn't give a, I don't know what we can say here in this place, but fill in the blank, right? I didn't care at all about people outside of my little bubble. I was paying no attention. Immediately after this experience, I began to have this very deep sense of curiosity and compassion with people that I would meet. I would want to find out who they were, what gets them out of bed in the morning, what drives them, and are they going through anything, and maybe I can help. I don't know. So, all right, I come back to Indiana University for my senior year. Before I left IU to go to Australia, there wasn't a single Jesus follower or Christian in this entire fraternity of 180 guys. Before I got back, and this had nothing to do with me, my 3 best friends in the fraternity had also had these crazy encounters with God while I was gone, plus my drug dealer, who was an atheist before I left. And I came back, and they're all like totally different, and I'm totally different. They're like, what the hell happened to you? I'm like, what the hell happened to you? Right? And we know, and we got this Bible study going in the fraternity, and we started leading a whole lot of guys to faith. It was crazy. And I started thinking about my future, and I decided I don't want to go to law school anymore and become a real estate developer because I don't care about that amount of money that I thought that I wanted to make. I don't even care. I just want to help people connect with God. So I felt like God was calling me to be a pastor. So I moved out to Los Angeles, studied at a seminary out there. I met the woman who became my wife, who I married way out of my league. My wife was just an amazing saint, incredible person. And we felt a call to come start a church in Detroit, in the city of Detroit. And then we did what most people do, right? We moved to Africa for 9 months. And in Africa, I lived in a mud hut in a Muslim village with no running water, and my job was to be a community developer, and I didn't know anything about that, right? But I knew how to listen to people and to find out what they needed, what they wanted, and then call my buddies back home to pay for it. And so the women in the village were walking about 1.5 miles every day each way to get water that was as dark as a cup of coffee out of a source that none of us would want anything to do with, right? And the children were walking 5 miles each way every day to go to school, which meant very few children were going to school. And they didn't have very many farm animals. So we raised some money, we were able to get some animals, we dug a well, and we built a school. Now, when I say we built a school, it was out of mud and sticks and a metal roof, but we found a group to run this school, and that's where I learned community development, and that experience in Africa radically changed the way that I read the stories about Jesus. And I began to realize that from my new open eyes, that he spent the majority of his public kind of ministry, as you might call it, with people who were the most marginalized and oppressed. And that's what he wanted his followers to do as well. And not that we all needed to move into a mud hut or into the hood, right? But that I believe we're all here on this earth, whatever our faith or religious traditions or beliefs may be, I believe we're here, and I think we all believe this, to love one another. And I also believe this is the last thing I'll say. I believe God is biased. I believe he is biased, or God, however you define him, or God, or, let's just say God, toward people who are experiencing suffering and marginalization. I believe God is especially present, and he's calling us to be especially focused on those who are experiencing suffering in its many forms. We can find suffering everywhere we look, in our families, in our neighborhoods. Certainly in the city of Detroit, you've seen some of the statistics. This is real suffering. This is real marginalization and oppression. But I believe God is calling all of us to have a disproportionate amount of our focus in life on those who are in those situations. So thank you for listening to what's going on in Detroit. You probably already knew very much of this, but thank you for being involved in the work that we're doing and your passion for humanity. God bless you.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks for the work that you're doing. Our offertory words come from Dorothy Day. People say, "What is the sense of our small effort?" They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. You are now invited to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts of the congregation. You may also give online via the QR code on the back of the order of service. Thank you. Please rise as you're willing and able to sing our closing hymn, number 118, "This Little Light of Mine."
I'm gonna let it shine.
closing words are from Michelle Collins, called Changes Abound. Changes abound around us, within us, between us, in our communities, our neighborhoods, and our beloved faith communities. Changes abound. May we each find the balance point we need as we move through our ever-changing world, the balance between the old and the new, between the known and the unknown, between the familiar and the perhaps bold and risky possibilities that may be there waiting.